What's up everyone, Adam from Cape Crawlers, and today we've got our hands on the Laegendary RANGO. Welcome back to the channel everybody. Got a big one for you today, and I mean big. Check this out. We got our hands on this brand new Laegendary RANGO. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna need a bigger set to film this thing. It's enormous. This is by far the biggest rig that we've featured on the channel. This is an 8 scale, ready to run crawler. Comes loaded with features. It's got a working winch, lights, 2-speed transmission. The thing is awesome. It's got a battery and charger. It comes ready to go. So very cool rig. And you guys know we've been trending towards the bigger scales. This is just another step in that direction. So I'm super excited to check this thing out. As the weather warms up and spring comes around, we're really going to be looking to get outside more, check out the bigger scales. Not giving up the mini crawlers, don't get me wrong, I still love the minis, but we're going to be expanding the channel to do more of the bigger scales. And this is just the kind of the next evolution of the channel, kicking it off here with the RANGO. So I'm super excited for this thing. It looks awesome, and Axel is going to go ballistic when he sees it. With the Hummer look to the body and the green paint, it's got a real military look to it. Tough, rugged, and the working winch is so cool. He's going to go nuts. So why don't we unbox this thing, check it out, then we'll get some run time on it. We'll show it to Axel and see what he thinks, let him play with it and have some time with it. It's going to be fun, so let's jump in. Oh my gosh, I legit don't even know where to start with this thing. It is so huge. Let's do this. I want to give a shout out to Zach over at Untitled RC for turning me on to this rig. I'd never heard of it until I saw it on his channel, so thank you to Zach for pointing this out and doing a good video on it, because otherwise, holy cow, this thing is nuts. It's so big. Here's our transmitter right here. I believe this is a 2.4 gigahertz. I believe it's a 5-channel transmitter. I like the blue. It's a nice feel to it. Decent for one-handed operation, it feels like. You do need the batteries for this. That's one thing that doesn't come with, so we need the 4 AA batteries for the transmitter. You know, the box was big. The rig is even bigger than I expected. This thing is massive. Here's our accessories here. Let's see what we got. So here's our battery charger. We got some zip ties. One thing I really like, it comes with a charging bag for the battery. I think that's really cool. So just an extra safety feature there. That's really nice. Oh my gosh, are you guys ready for this? Holy cow. Gosh. Axel is gonna go nuts when he sees this thing. Holy cow. Okay, let's start getting this thing ready. I'll kind of give you my first impressions, and we'll also hit some of the key features of this thing as we go along. So, I mean, it's just huge. I mean, the first thing that stands out to me is just the massive size of this thing. I like the look of the body. The color's cool. I don't know, is it just me? It kind of looks pink on the side. Am I imagining that? Because the front looks white. I mean, this definitely looks white to me, but I feel like that's pink on the side. I don't know if that comes off or if that's just what it is. I don't know. I'm not upset about it. I'm just wondering if I'm just seeing things or if that is actually a pinkish hue to the decals on the side. I love the rugged bumper on this thing with the D-rings. There's the working winch right there. And so it's got working lights on it. It's got your light bar. And then it's got headlights. I believe it has functional turn signals and things as well. Let's look at the back. Again, big fat D-rings on the back. Our working tail lights. It's got this composite cage that runs around to give you some body protection. Let's take this thing off. Inside we have your wiring connection for our lights and everything, I imagine. Check out the frame. Not what I was really expecting for this. So what this is a steel ladder frame with molded cross members. And then you got these 2 aluminum plates in the front and the back for your bumper mounts and everything to attach to. It's got multi-link suspension. Look at, holy cow, the thing's got some flex to it. It's got oil-filled shocks. They're a little bouncy. I don't have a lot of experience with 10 scales, so I can't tell you how they feel compared to other rigs as far as stiffness and things go, but I can just say, you know, it does have a little bit of bounce to it just on the rebound. I am still very impressed with the articulation here. I like that. Interesting to see what it can do with the body on it. While we're in here, you can kind of see the motor peeking out here. It's got a 550 sized brushed 36 turn motor in there. The 2-speed transmission, servo operated. We've got a metal geared servo up front. Let's see underneath. We've got composite drive shafts. We'll put the body back on, see how this thing articulates. I do want to plug the lights in. We'll try all that too. It's got, you know, big range. I mean, it's a big rig. It's got quite, the back flexes really well. Yeah, I like that. Cool. I'm going to hook the lights up and see if we can get the electronics working. I want to try out the winch and the lights and stuff too. So we've got our batteries installed, batteries in the transmitter. We've got the lights hooked up, so check this thing out. It's got indicators. Now we can use the channel 4 switch on the transmitter to toggle the lights. So that's off. There's a strobe function. And then we can have them on constant. If I have the lights off, you still get the turn signals on the transmitter. So now let's demonstrate this winch here while we're looking at the front. So on the transmitter, there's these 2 buttons here on the top. This is what operates our winch. All right, now let's give it a shot. I think I have to pull it out. Yeah, look at that. Isn't that awesome? And then wind it back in. It's supposed to have enough power to pull itself. It's got a lot of pulling power. I'm not going to demonstrate that on the bench, but we'll definitely try that out on the trail. That is super cool. I also want to do some size comparisons. So here is the Mashigan, the 110 Mashigan from FMS. So you can see the size difference. The Rango is much bigger. Here they are from the back. It's hard to tell from this angle, but the wheelbase is virtually identical between the two of them. The Rango just sits much higher and is definitely significantly wider. Right, this thing is mighty impressive. So to change the gears on it, it has a 2-speed transmission that you operate with the transmitter. You've got this channel 3 switch right here, so it's just a push button switch, and that operates your transmission. Nice and smooth shifts from what I can tell, at least on the bench. So very exciting. So I'm going to let the battery charge and get this thing ready to go, and then we're going to take it out and hit the trails with it. This is an entirely new driving style for me, guys. This thing has so much power. Just getting used to driving something of this size. The slow crawl is decent. It's got good control. Having the 2-speed gearbox is nice. I've got the lower speed for crawling. If you want to throw it. Well, it's pretty quick in high speed. dial it back down so we can climb back up this hill. The capabilities of the bigger scale is just so cool. You have so much more muscle to just bump up over things and really use the throttle a lot more. See that articulation. Quite a bit for a big truck. That's a big obstacle. Oh. Nice. See if we can try out that winch. See what it can do. If I can hook on to one of these branches over here. So I do find the winch comes unplugged pretty easily. It gets jarred around, that plug comes undone. So I gotta take the body back off to plug the winch in. I've had this happen a couple times. All right, I've winched around this tree branch here. Let's see what it can do. Look at that, that's awesome. I'm not touching any throttle, I'm just using the winch itself. Thing's got some juice. Get a little help. That's so cool. Awesome. So cool. I like it. That's very neat. So I'm looking for some gnarly rock spots to test this thing out, really test the crawling ability here. Let's see what we can do here. To help it a little bit there, I was high centered on those rocks, but there's some gnarly terrain right here. Made it. Guys, I just found the gold mine here, crawling spot. This is going to be perfect for the smaller scales, but let's take the Rango out here, try this thing out. Find a good line up over this nasty gatekeeper here. That's where I wish I had a little better crawling ability. I was able to tune the throttle a little bit to get some more low speed out of it, but I just wish I had a little more control off the bottom so I didn't have to just bump everything. made it. Definitely rely on momentum to get this thing up and over obstacles. From a strict crawling perspective, struggling a little bit. It's massively capable though. I mean, you just use the throttle and the big momentum generated from this big beast and be able to get up over some pretty gnarly stuff here. I'm so stoked with this crawling spot. I have to take the rest of the crew out here later. Man, this is a great find. Wow, that was impressive. It's like my winch came just unhooked there. Clanging and banging. Oh, this thing's really well planted, I gotta say. Looks like my lights might have come unplugged too. I'm kind of flickering on and off there. Another way we can demonstrate the speed. Walking down this path, it's definitely getting away from me. A lot faster than walking speed for sure. All right, my friends, so it's actually been a couple weeks since I first got the Rango, and I really wanted to wait a little bit to get acclimated with it and spend some significant time on it before I film the rest of this video. And the reason for that is that I'm not really familiar with these bigger scale rigs, so I really wanted to put some time on it. I wanted my son to try it out. I wanted him to really thrash it, put it through its paces, and I just really wanted to get more familiar with the rig in order to give you guys a real objective opinion on it. So now that we're a couple weeks into it, we've put some significant time on it, lots of hours on this thing, lots of fun had with it. I'm in a good spot to give you my final thoughts. So let's kick this off with what I liked, and then we'll get into what I didn't like so much, and then I'll give you my final impressions on this thing. So let's talk about what I liked. First off, I love that you get so much from this right out of the box. You get a true ready-to-run crawler, and that's awesome in this scale. I love the features that this thing has. They really loaded this thing up out of the box. The working winch with the steel cable, the lights and the headlights and the light bar, all being able to control from the transmitter, the 2-speed transmission, oil-filled shocks. You know, it's got a lot of bang for the buck in this thing, and I really like those features. My son adores the winch. Oh my word, he uses that winch all the time, pulling toys around Man, he uses it for everything. It's so fun to watch him enjoy that. He loves it. Performance of this thing is great. Again, I'm not super experienced in the larger scales, so something of this size is just incredibly capable to someone like me who's used to little mini crawlers. I mean, the stuff that this thing is able to get up and over is mighty impressive. So it's got big ground clearance. The brush motor in there has plenty of torque, plenty of power, worked really well. Seemed really stable, really well planted, and just performed great, I felt. So those are some of the things that I liked. Now let's talk about some of the things that I didn't like so much. And most of this has to do with the chassis itself. So why don't we take a closer look at the rig and I'll show you exactly what I mean. All right, so here's the rig. So let's take a look at this thing and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Most of this is under the body here. Let's remove my pins. The biggest issue I have with this is the chassis design. Primarily these two aluminum plates here that the bumper's attached to. Now, if you can see this is the rear section here. And we actually broke this off where it traditionally attaches. And it happens because you come down at a steep angle and you hit this, it bends the bumper down and it will bend this whole plate down. And same thing with the front. If you're coming down to a steep approach or backing down, you hit that bumper and it bends the whole aluminum plate. So I found, particularly when Axel was driving this and he was going up and down some steep inclines and declines, I was having to constantly bend these plates back up. And then he finally just snapped the back one. So what I ended up having to do was drill new holes in this and reattach it, and then use the copious amount of body post mountings here to just move this back one more so that I could keep the body mounting. But even so, I'm constantly watching this and watching my son when he's driving it to make sure that this stays attached and is still level. With that said, the chassis is extremely capable, and I think there's a lot of potential kind of hiding in here, and it's limited by the body, I think. So when you look at this thing, it can articulate like crazy. It's got a ton of flex with these long shocks. I mean, I don't know what that can get. And this is a 7-inch ramp. And just about get that whole ramp pretty close. I think it's got it. So this thing has a lot of potential in the chassis. But when you put the body on, you only get about a quarter of that before the body limits it. So I just think there's a lot of hidden potential in this chassis, and you could get a lot out of it. But with the body that's on there, it just doesn't really allow this thing to move in the way that it could. I just feel like there's more capabilities that are lurking within this thing, and it's being kind of hampered by the chassis setup and these aluminum plates in particular. It's got all composite drivetrain here, pretty much. You've got composite drive shafts, composite linkage. So I think if you're going to be doing real hardcore crawling, I would be weary of that. I wish this was metal. At least the drive shafts were metal, and maybe these lower links here were metal. But just something to keep in mind. The servo, I felt like the servo was a little weak, and it could definitely benefit from a bigger servo. If you look at this thing, it's a 9-kilogram servo. Pretty small for a rig of this size, so I think it could definitely benefit from an upgraded servo. The steering did feel a little sluggish in this thing. It didn't fail on me and didn't really fade, but it's just not super fast and not super powerful, not for a rig of this size. I think it really needs an upgraded servo. So final thoughts on the Rango. I think this is a great entry-level, larger scale trail truck. Now I stress the trail truck because although this is touted as a crawler, I wouldn't really consider this a true rock crawler. I think if you're buying this to do serious rock crawling, it's going to leave a little bit to be desired. But I do think for the newer hobbyist or someone who's using this to do just some trail driving, some light crawling, I think this is a great rig. For someone like myself and my son who are just kind of dipping our toes in the larger scale pond here, this is a great entry point for us, and we've had a lot of fun with it. So overall, I liked it. I think if you're buying this for a rock crawler, you should level set your expectations. But if you're looking for an entry-level trail truck that's super capable and super fun, lots of bang for the buck, I think this is definitely a win. But let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of this monster? And should we do more bigger scale stuff? Definitely want to know what you think. But thanks so much for watching. I'll put the link in the description down below if you want to pick one of these Rangos up. I appreciate your time as always. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so, and I'll see you in the next video.